what you're seeing ain't two people in love. It's a real video game controller. And after I found this, it really got me thinking, how much weirder can a video game controller get? Well, it can get pretty dude. But before I show you the worst of the worst, let's start with the weird funny ones and work our way up all the way to the ones that I think should be illegal.
What is that? I don't know. Power Glove.
This is the NES Power Glove, and it's technically the first time that we were introduced into virtual reality gaming. You see, when this came out in 1989, people were hyped. But when they finally got their hands on it, they realized, what the f is this setup? And why would people want to play the original 2D Mario with a glove? Well, obviously this controller completely bombed. It did something else. What it ended up achieving was to prove to other controller makers that people wanted some weird stuff. So that's when they came out with the next item we have today. The Nintendo Super Chair. Now, the first time I saw this, I thought, yeah, this is just gonna work like those arcade machines that move while you play. But it's way stupider than that. The chair works more like a joystick. The way you use this thing is by moving your butt around in the chair so that essentially you can move in the game. And while this is absolutely cursed, it might not be as cursed as the next controller.
You force. You force.
Not only does this controller look like a laptop, but the way you use this thing is by hovering your hands around in between it, almost like you're casting some kind of spell. My favorite part of this device though is like this weird attachment it comes with, and I don't know how they did it, but it makes it look somehow weirder. Now this U-Force also bombed, but it also did something else. You see, Sega came in and they thought they could improve on this device.
This is called the Sega Activator, and then you just punch. See? Now punch me here. There, can you see that?
Honestly, whoever made this device deserves a medal. Because while they did improve on the U-Force, they somehow also made you look weirder at the same time. Now, before we move on from this retro gaming era, let's kind of move this progress bar over here and let me show you two more controllers that, yeah, they should just straight up be illegal. The Atari MindLink. This was literally a device that let you control games using your mind, kinda. You see, when this thing came out in 1989, they didn't have all that crazy technology you see streamers like Perry use. Instead, these devices used infrared sensors on the forehead to kind of detect how the muscles were moving. Because of this, nearly everyone who used the device ended up getting some kind of headache or feeling dizzy. So they never actually went public with this product. And I think the reason they didn't bring it out was because of our next device that came out a few years earlier. It's called the Stick, and it's the first ever motion controller ever to come out in gaming. Now, while this looks like a harmless bike handle, this thing could literally kill you. And I'm not joking. You see, the way they were able to achieve this technology so early on was through the use of a thing called mercury switches. And in case you don't know, mercury is very toxic and sometimes can even be fatal. Do not buy this, you will die. Okay, now let's bring this back a little bit because I want to talk about something more modern and a little bit more strange. Gaming controller collabs. In case you don't know what these are, let me show you the most recent one. The Deadpool Xbox butt controller. This is literally just a normal Xbox controller with a magnetic detachable butt. And surprisingly, it's not even the weirdest collab Xbox has done. You see, a couple years earlier, Xbox collabed with Sonic and they made this thing. And this looks so gross to use, but to be fair, it probably works in some kind of furry gaming setup. Now, there is a collab that probably should have been illegal. I'm talking about the Xbox Suzuki car. Like, literally, this thing is a car. Inside the steering wheel of this car, there's an Xbox controller. The seats vibrate when you game, and when you open up the hood, it turns into a projector screen. And you know what? This progress bar for a sec, because I got a couple more that should be illegal just for ruining our childhoods. Like, bro, why did they make the original Xbox controller so fat? This thing was huge. I remember going to my friend's place using this thing, and I couldn't even use their games because this thing was bigger than my head. And one more pet peeve while we're here. Why did Nintendo sell 32 million controllers to people with 3 hands? Okay, I feel a bit better now. Progress bar, you can come back now, buddy. Progress bar? Oh, fuck! Let's start with the Alpha Grip controller. This is a controller with 42 buttons, but doesn't even have a control stick. Now, originally when I found this thing, I thought it was just a weird looking controller. But then I found the creator's YouTube channel, and I was shocked when he said this thing was designed for.
While you're standing, walking, running, riding in a vehicle.
Blood is literally telling you to use this thing illegally when you drive. But it gets even worse than this.
We said, look, if you're floating out in space, you know, With an alpha grip, you could be floating around and typing.
And my favorite part of his whole ad is when he starts playing Doom. He literally can't dodge attacks because his controller doesn't have a control stick. He's trying to dodge things with this ball. And while we're on the topic of balls, let me show you the next controller.
I need a real-life 3D game controller. Space Orb 360! Moves in any and every direction!
As you can see, this controller uses an entire rubber ball as a control stick. And it's meant to have like a 360-degree feel, but every time I see someone online use this thing, they end up hurting their hand or just being horrible at the game they're playing. And while we're on horrible ideas, I really want to talk about cursed Wii accessories. Now, I'm not just talking about like the Mario Kart wheel or Lil Timmy's gun collection. I'm talking about things like the babysitting mama baby. This was a Wii accessory that was just a plush baby you shove a Wii remote into. And then there was like the Wii helm. I still don't know what game this was made for. All I could find online is some chick playing Wii Sports with a head. And I was gonna just leave it there till I found the most cursed Wii accessory I've ever seen. This is the laparoscopic controller. I don't know how to say it, but it's pretty much a Wii accessory for medical students to learn how to do keyhole surgery. Like, this thing does look pretty sick, but I don't want my surgeons in this earth learning how to do surgery with a Wii controller. Okay, we are now at the final end of this progress bar, and what's remaining are 5 controllers that are either insanely weird or 100% should just be illegal. Be warned. What you just saw isn't some weird Japanese corn. This is an ad for the Res Trance Vibrator. This strange attachment connects straight to your PS2 to just vibrate. According to the creator, it was apparently meant to be some wholesome device you put between your feet or put inside your pocket. But brother, you're telling me, out of all the humans in the world, when they see the vibrator on the GameStop shelf, every human's gonna use that wholesomely? No. Next, we have one of the weirdest controllers I've ever seen in my life. This is the Crimson Controller. I don't know why someone wanted to do this, but in 1996, some random Japanese artist decided to make a controller look like a freaking Dark Souls boss. And then we have Bunga Bunga. This is a Korean arcade machine that works just like a spanking simulator and a kancho simulator. Now, for those normal human beings who live in Australia or America who don't know what kancho is, I'll let this YouTuber Mrs. Eat explain it to you.
そしてその指で勝利を勝ち取るのだ、艦長!
Anyway, even though this is weird, the actual gameplay is way worse. You see, the way you score points in this game is by either slapping the butt or performing some kancho with the provided finger. And then there's the character selection screen, which you can pick 8 characters from. There's an ex-girlfriend, an ex-boyfriend, a gangster, a mother-in-law, a gold digger, a con artist, and the last 2, I don't really want to say, but let's say one's a TikTok with a Linktree bio, and the other one is Dr. Disrespect. Thank God only 5 got released to the public. Yeah, I'm sorry it got pretty weird, but the next one is really funny. Introducing the Sega Toilet. What this controller actually does, it allows you to use your personal joystick as a mini controller. The way this works is when you piss, you aim at this little target. Then the game analyzes the direction of your piss and its strength, and it affects the game accordingly. And this thing wasn't just some like one-off gimmick game that came with this. There was 8 games. Some of these included a fighting game where it looks more focused on the strength of your piss. Then there's a game with a nurse that just sits there and motivates you to pee harder. And of course, in true Japanese fashion, there's a game where the harder you pee, the more this girl's skirt flies up. And that leaves our final controller of the day. And this one's just unworldly, bro.
We're raising the stakes of gaming by making it so that when you lose blood in the game,
You lose it in real life as well.
Yeah, you heard that correctly. This is the Bloodsport controller. This controller dropped in 2014 on Kickstarter, and it's an accessory that connects to your main controller, and every time it vibrates, it takes some blood from you. And I promise this isn't some weird like horror story controller. It actually had a pretty wholesome purpose. The general idea of this thing was to make blood donations more fun. But let's be real. What psycho would actually use this thing? Blood's face says it all. This thing is fucked. Fortunately though, the Kickstarter project did get banned off Kickstarter, so it never came out publicly, and honestly, thank God for that.